Your little buttons, guys. Um, can I get a motion to reconvene to open session? Second?
I'll second it.
Thanks. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1, right? All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Those of you that have seats, please be seated. Okay. Monica has asked us to approve the agenda with one change, that we add personnel action item 6.1 final read of Spreckels Elementary School Principal and the job description we have in front of us. We're going to add that, well, obviously at item 6.1. So if we have that adjustment, will somebody move the... Thank you. Second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Thanks. That was easy. Okay. Announcement of actions taken in closed session. In closed session, we discussed, gave guidance about negotiations. We gave guidance on a confidential employee position, and we started the evaluation process for the superintendent.
Extended probation classified.
Oh, yeah. And we extended probation for a classified employee. All right. Recognition.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. Exciting. This is kind of BV specific tonight. And we're going to start with one of our brand new teachers. This is kind of like a Stephanie theme, too, because we have two Stephanies that we'll be presenting. Stephanie Maroney is a perfect example of somebody that comes up through your program and just at every level just succeeds and excels. She was the mother of 3 sons that went through our program. Actually, youngest hit the game winner, so we'll talk about you later. Stephanie was an instructional assistant for years here, and she just is working on credential, and she's a rock star 6th grade teacher who took on a lot this year. And she got involved with what's called the Steinbeck Young Authors Program. Mrs. Ferber and Stephanie are going to kind of, I think, collaborate? Okay.
Remember to press the button, please.
Yeah. Can we move this a little bit? Sure.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent, for giving us some of the background about Ms. Maroney. I want to add a few more details because in working with this teacher this year, I find her to be a really remarkable educator, and I want you to know a few more things about her. So Ms. Maroney started in our district 7 years ago. She started in a lunch duty position. She then moved to an aide position, a one-on-one position, and she's now a first-year teacher. It was when she was a one-on-one aide that she made the decision to make education her permanent career. At the time, she was working collaboratively with Heather Martin to support a student, and this was during the pandemic. Stephanie dove into supporting students online, created breakout rooms and other supports to provide what the students needed. When she saw that the students continued to grow and progress because of her efforts, it convinced her that her calling is to be an educator. With the love and support of her stepmom, also an educator, and also named Stephanie, and here in this room with us today, Ms. Maroney fast-tracked her bachelor's degree by deciding to earn 39 units in one semester.
Wow.
Which meant taking 7 classes in about a month and a half's time. She wrapped up her bachelor's degree 2 weeks ahead of schedule. And then she entered her credentialing program and started with us in the fall. I have been really impressed with the work that Stephanie's been doing this year. I asked her if she wouldn't mind sharing some really neat things that she's been working on with her students in collaboration with the Steinbeck Center. So she's prepared this presentation to tell you a little bit about the Steinbeck series work that she's been doing. Stephanie?
Thank you.
Do I talk into this?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just do it for thousands of people.
Right. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this district. That's always been a very special place to me, and a very safe place for me and for my kids. So this is, it's kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it's very, very near and dear to my heart, this district, and to be able to continue working as a teacher for our district as well. In the fall, when I started teaching, I wanted to bring back classics to my language arts students for reading and for literature. And I reached out to Dr. Tarallo and Mrs. Verderber, and I said, I want to bring Steinbeck back. He's from our community, and this is something that I don't think that many of our kids even know about, that it's right here from our town. And with that, Dr. Tarallo said, you know, it's funny that you say that, because I just got an email from the Steinbeck's Young Authors Program, and if you join this, you know, then this is what they do. They come to the classroom, they give some lessons in the classroom that are all curriculum based, and then they also, help the kids with writing. And then there's a contest, a writing contest at the end of the lessons, where the students will do a piece, where they will write a piece, and then they'll be entered into, 2 students will be entered into a contest with the Steinbeck Center to go to a day of writing at the Steinbeck Center, where they spend the day working with mentors and editors and different people that have worked with the archives and everything from the Steinbeck Center. And then they also will be published in a book. Little did I know that all of my students are going to be published in a book. And so it's, they, if you want to continue with the slides, so that's basically the gist of it. In the second trimester, I decided to declare that as my Steinbeck series for my language arts and literature classes. In lit class, we read 2 of John Steinbeck's short novels. We read the Red Pony and The Pearl. They did novel studies on them, and then both language arts classes, which also included my lit class, they were given the gift of writing with the Young Authors Program. So our school was only 1 out of 12 in Monterey County that participated in the program. We had 2 in-person writing lessons. As you can see, there's pictures there of them doing the lesson in the classroom. They came once in the fall, and then they came another time in January. The language arts classes that got the writing lessons, they were geared around the descriptive literacy that was like the style of John Steinbeck, because we all know how descriptive he was in his writing. And they were able to engage in lessons and then also touch artifacts, see and touch artifacts from the museum, including John Steinbeck's Salinas High School yearbook from 1919, which had the picture of him as the ASB president in it. So that's a picture. They also were able to see the picture to the right there is one of the very first publications of The Pearl that was in a magazine that was about this big. It's funny how magazines were back then. So they got to see the yearbook, and then they also got to see that one of the very first publications of The Pearl. They were also given treats and stuff from the people that were teaching the lessons. They were given, chapsticks or earbuds or whatever for answering questions and for participation in the lesson. So the writing lessons helped them expand their vocabulary. A lot of them, because of COVID, a lot of our students are they're still struggling in ways, with vocabulary and expanding their vocabulary. So that the lessons helped with that, and they all wrote an essay on something called a winter wonderland, something that I thought that they could use those descriptive terms with. 2 of my students were nominated for the Steinbeck Writing Contest and were chosen to go to the Steinbeck Center on March 4th, which was last week. And the 2 of them were Chloe Stitt and Michaela Blomquist. And both of them reported back after having a really fun experience. They got to work with mentors, they got served lunch and breakfast, and they got to work on fine-tuning their writing and everything else. And then they resubmitted their Winter Wonderland projects, which will be featured also in the publication that's coming out. So the day after, there's a picture of the anthology from last year. It's a book about this thick, and it will feature all of my students' submissions that they did for the Winter Wonderland essay. And those are pictures of 2 different students, working, we had an outdoor lesson in January, which actually Mrs. Verderber was able to attend one of, 2 of them, right? So every single student is going to be given a publication of the book, as well as a copy for Principal Verderber, one for myself, and then one for the Board of Trustees.
Great.
To say that this program hasn't been positive would be an understatement. It was something that all of the kids looked forward to. When the kids came in and they knew that the young authors people were coming, they were excited. It also gave them a thirst for reading Steinbeck. And I had a couple of students even after come to me and say, guess what? I'm going to read Of Mice and Men, and I'm going to read Of East of Eden. And when I had a few copies of Travels with Charlie in the classroom, they got excited and they were like, oh, I want to read it. And, there's not enough for the whole class, but I want to read it first. So it gave them a thirst for that. And they loved the fact that as they're reading these books and they're talking about, the Gabilan Mountains or Salinas Valley or Monterey, that those are things that they can walk out of our classroom door and they can look at. And knowing that all of his books were somehow geared around the place where they live and where they grew up and where some of their parents went to high school and, that kind of stuff. I am hoping, and I am in contact with the young authors, the people in charge of planning a field trip. I'm hoping to plan a field trip to the museum to take all of my students to see the museum so that they can all see everything that's all parts of the artifacts and of Steinbeck. And so we're working on that and hoping for it. Those are just some pictures of the lessons, of them getting to touch the artifacts. The one on the top is we were in the amphitheater at BV, which is a beautiful day, and they were able to be, focused on describing environment and describing different parts of what their surroundings were and learning what the words were that they wanted to use to add to their writing projects. One of my favorite quotes: I've come to believe that a great teacher is a great artist, and that there are as few as there are any other great artists. Teaching might even be the greatest of the arts, since the medium is the human mind and spirit. And I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Turallo and Mrs. Verderber for their support and being so encouraging through all of this. For Dr. Turallo for putting me in contact with the Young Authors Program, for Mrs. Verderber being supportive and encouraging and attending our lessons, and then a huge thank you to the Young Authors Program for the engaging lessons and everything that was given to my students. It was really something. So,
All right, before we finish up this portion, I just also included a couple more slides. This is on a little bit of a tangent, but this is another example of how Ms. Maroney makes real-world connections for her students. We had polls in our teachers' lounge at our school, which taking up a day at our school and needing to move copy machines around and different things could be seen as an inconvenience, but Ms. Maroney decided to turn it into a learning opportunity for our students, and she brought the students to that polling place, and they had the opportunity to meet the people working there and learn a little bit about the voting process in our country. So we just have this slide and then the next slide.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. Hey, for those of you that don't know, 34 units in a semester is a lot. The typical load for students is from 15 to 18 units. 18's big. To do 34 in a couple of months is mind-blowing. And to have gotten passing grades in those, even more so. And then doing all of this stuff, congratulations. Great addition. Okay.
So our kids are obviously scholars, but we have some athletes too. And this year, under our athletic director, Stephanie Owens' guidance, we had to talk her into being the athletic director because we couldn't find one. So thank you, Stephanie. Anyways, the end of the basketball season, we had 4 #1 seeds, which means they won their regular season. 3 out of the 4 won the championship. That's never happened before. And Mrs. Owens is going to go ahead and recognize the players. Their banners are being created. I think the trophy's on its way. Maybe make it tonight. Oh. You could paint this room blue. I wouldn't even notice that either. So, yes. Ms. Owens, go ahead, please. I really didn't see that.
Okay, so the boys team, where is Coach Michael? Coach, where are you? Hey, come on up, Coach.
Ms. Owens, maybe they can assemble up here by their coach, and then
Okay.
parents take pictures they want.
Coach, do you want to put the trophy up for the boys? I don't know which one it is from here. Do you want to put it on the table? Okay, so the boys went 15-1. The only loss was to Palma, and then we beat Palma, so it always makes you feel good. And I think it was a pretty gripping game too, a nail-biting game for the championship. So they had us on our toes. So first, if you're here, Alex Campa, come on up. Wait to through. Brady Del Real. Brady's not here. Brady. Okay. Marco Erickson, are you here? But he was on the team. Max Espinoza, you're here. Nico Felice.
Yeah.
Nico. Logan Gallegos.
Yeah.
Logan, are you here? He was on the team. Angel Gonzalez, are you here? Avon Green. Avon, are you here? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Guys,
All
go
right.
ahead and move across. You can stand in front of us. We're fine.
Colin Healy. Jacob Morgan. Nico Rodriguez. And last but not least, Stanley Valdez. Please give a round of applause to our champion 7th grade basketball team. Okay, mamas, take pictures.
All right.
My mama got pictures in there? Okay. Great job, boys. We hope to see this trophy next year for 8th grade. And I would also like, for the boys, I don't, Michael, I know Coach Pierre helped a little bit too. So the boys played really great. They worked hard, and Coach Michael really did practice them hard. So they played hard, they practiced hard. So great job, guys.
Good job.
All right. You can bow or give some thumbs up, but leave the trophy. Thanks, guys. Thank you for showing up, boys.
Good job.
Thank you. Congratulations. Oh, Stanley, can do that way.
These are our $1 million coaches, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Break down about 50 cents now.
Yeah.
Okay, looking for Coach John and Coach Brian.
Let me go get them for you.
It's a little packed in here.
It's a good pack, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Coach Brian. Okay. All right, you're gonna stand up there, find your trophy, and put it on the table. It's not the yellow one. I know it's one of the black ones. Okay, so our girls team is undefeated, undefeated team. So they took it all the way, not one loss. All right, they pretty much, I don't know if I can say kick butt, but they kick butt. If I did, too late, I said it twice. Okay, so girls, if you're here, Kaden Aguilera, come on up. Nope. Kaden? Nope, but she gets recognized. Emily Amarim, come on up. Smush,
They're
smush.
going to take a picture at the end.
Okay, Reese Barsoom, is she here? I didn't see her. Okay, Lila Garcia. Minvi Lee. Samantha Lopez. Sam, come on up. Boys, okay, boys, stand up and move. Thank you, Sam. Gianna Narciso. Juliana Richard. Gigi. Jillian Sherpinski. And Ella Uribe. Okay, boys, get up, please.
There's a lot of overlap. This team and the soccer team that won.
And we're looking for a repeat from these girls and another undefeated season for 8th grade year. Give them a round of applause.
Good job,
Girls,
girls.
awesome job.
Yeah.
Mamas, take pictures. And daddies. All right. Great job,
Thanks,
girls.
Coach.
Thanks for
Thank
coming out.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. That's 2 banners.
Oh, the little
Yeah.
one. I was like, what?
Hey,
You
Paul,
got it?
huh?
Thanks, Coach. Thanks. I'll see ya. All right, Coach Pierre, your turn. Your turn. All right, Coach Pierre.
Find your trophy.
Coach, you are
Find your
obviously
trophy.
the yellow one. You want to put it up? Hold it. Okay, helps if I have the right.
Then you can pass it to your team as they come up.
Okay, so the boys' turn. Again, they only lost to Palma, but 17-1. So that's pretty awesome in that one game, and it happened to be the very first game was against Palma, even for the 7th graders. So we were like, oh,
Yeah.
really, to Palma? But anyway, for those who are watching, yeah. All right, so boys ready? I thought I saw you. Noah Berg, come on up. Good job. Is Viraj out there? Is it just you guys? And you guys, like just you? Okay, so Viraj, Chalsani's, but he's not here, so great job, Viraj. Micah Classwell. Who promised me he'd score 50 points, I would buy him a burrito. I never had to buy him a burrito because he never scored 50 points. All right, Quentin Dominguez. I know a lot of wrestling happened today, too. Sean Erickson is on the team. Ray Gutierrez. Good job, Ray.
That's long, yeah.
Who happened to win his wrestling match today, because I asked. Xavier Martin, who had wrestling. Daniel Pena. Diego Pierce. Alex Salinas, who's not here. Charlie Storelli, who also had wrestling, is not here. Ryan Tomasi. And Josh Wilkinson. Come on up, Josh. Oh, look at them all shaking hands. All right, boys, pose for that picture. You can do number one because you're number one. All right. Thank you, guys. Great job, Coach. Great job, boys.
All right. Good job. Not all together.
Hey, don't break it.
Good job, guys. Yeah, thanks, Coach.
So these will go in the case as you walk into the gym. We have to do a little bit of rearranging to get these because they're so tall. But I do want to give a shout out to our girls basketball team for the 8th graders. They pulled off 2 undefeated seasons up until the playoff game, and unfortunately just couldn't come through. But they had an amazing season as well.
Thanks for your work too, Stephanie.
Yeah. Stephanie, you know, an athletic director that gets 4 trophies gets automatically nominated for the next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
B-A-A-D, it'll be easy, he said.
Piece of cake.
It'll be easy after the season starts, he said. No, was it?
Yeah, at least. Okay,
Tell Micah.
that's a perfect segue because I want to affirm the work of Ms. Owens, and I've been wanting to do this for a couple of months. So there's just a few things that some details I want to offer up. Ms. Owens has been with our district for 8 years. She's currently a parent of one of our students. She's an 8th grade science teacher. She's a math intervention teacher. By the way, she's doing all of these things at the same time. During activity class and after school, she's doing math intervention. She is our athletic director in charge of organizing coaches, contests, referees, and much more. So with a nod to our student athletes themselves, their families, and our coaches, under Stephanie's leadership this past year in BVMS athletics, our girls 6th to 8th grade soccer team league championship, all girls volleyball made it to the playoffs. This is the first year Buena Vista has been #1 seeded for all 7th and 8th grade basketball, both boys and girls. And then as we celebrated tonight, we have our 7th and 8th grade boys basketball league champions and our undefeated 7th grade girls are champions. So I just want to affirm the work that she's doing because she is an educator and beyond, and we're really grateful for her work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next Stephanie.
Oh, we're out of
No, I'm
Stephanie.
kidding.
We're out of Stephanie.
We got any slips for? Okay. Bargaining unit presentations. STA?
Come in from the cold and then come straight in. Oh,
Yeah, take off that Palma jacket. Yeah.
come in from the cold. Sorry. Okay. Princeton, right? That's the other P. Princeton. We'll go for that.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, esteemed members of the school board. I stand before you today with a heart full of gratitude and appreciation on behalf of the teachers within our district. Your unwavering faith and trust in us during these challenging financial times have not gone unnoticed. The decision to provide us with a much needed raise speaks volumes about your dedication to the well-being of our educators and ultimately the quality of education our students receive. Thank you. We are deeply grateful for the opportunity to engage in constructive dialogue with the board on various crucial matters, such as budget allocation, site articulation, LCAP, calendar adjustments, and professional development initiatives. These discussions, marked by honesty and transparency, are invaluable in shaping the future of our educational community. However, even as we move forward, it's crucial to recognize areas that continue to demand our attention. One such area is the vital importance of intervention within our school district and the invaluable support it provides for our students. Intervention, as many of you are aware, is not a single entity, but a complex network of strategies and programs. It encompasses a myriad of components, from classroom instruction to small group sessions, from after-school classes to specialized interventions such as SIPs and DIBBLES. Every student in our elementary school is benefiting from intervention efforts, particularly in the realm of early literacy. Through programs like DIBBLES, we are providing essential support to our young learners, equipping them with the foundational skills they need to succeed academically. The landscape of intervention is vast and multifaceted, incorporating initiatives such as MTSS, SSTs, accelerated reader, and bridging programs aimed at closing the learning gaps and fostering academic growth. We heard about this even at middle school. We have Stephanie with math. We have Alicia Ball, our intervention specialist. We're doing it all across the district. Less than 17% of the district community stakeholders completing the LCAP survey is not a true representation of our student population and its diverse needs, especially those whose children would benefit the most from intervention. Prioritization of intervention within our school district is essential. Our students deserve nothing less than comprehensive, targeted support that addresses their individual needs and fosters a culture of excellence and inclusivity. Together, let us reaffirm our commitment to intervention and ensure that every student receives the support and resources they need to thrive academically and beyond. Once again, I extend my deepest gratitude to each member of the school board for your dedication and support. Your tireless efforts do not go unnoticed. I know there aren't a lot of us here, but trust me, at our last STA meeting, we are so grateful to you. We appreciate you. Your partnership with us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And let me say on behalf of the board that we look forward to continuing this partnership. Bernard and Dr. Torallo and I will come out and talk about budget with your members at the schools, because we want to make sure that we know what's going on. We have a common understanding of that process. And we heard you say loud and clear that, yes, we want to raise, but those intervention specialists and those counselors are really important to us too. So even though those were previously funded by one-time funds, we're going to make sure that they're still there, because we know that they're needed and we know that they're very important. And we continue to want to work with STA and SCEA. CSEA.
Don't you love acronyms? I just
And
love them.
Heather's Union for together on making sure that this district moves forward in the most positive way possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Okay. Heather, you want to come talk about anything from your union that I can't pronounce? Okay. All right. Sure. Board member comments, Steve? Anything? Go ahead.
I want to thank the teachers and Frank and Eric for showing up last week for the roundtable. We got Spreckels coming up. Hopefully Stephanie and another board member will do that. If not, I will. See, the solar panels are going up. Andy's walking around with his hard hat. They had people working on the mounds on the baseball field, so that looks pretty good. And I had a great day at Spreckels today with the States and learned a bunch of new stuff at the States.
Okay. Thanks, Peter. Frank? Okay. And I am good as well. Oral and written communications. I guess the only thing is to point out that we all got an article about chronic absenteeism from CSBA, the Board Association. Oh, say a word about that, will you?
Well, it's tied to the presentation coming
Okay.
up, so that's what's.
All right, well, now time for your presentation coming up.
You know what? For the sake of timing, I'm going to weave this into the regular agenda. I think I can pull it off, so I'll pass.
Kristen, anything else from Buena Vista?
I think we've heard a lot from Buena Vista.
All right, Teresa.
Oh, it's still on. Okay. Good evening. I just want to share a few highlights from the last few weeks. As some of you know, we celebrated Read Across America Week last week with a full week of spirit and different kinds of activities, and our family reading celebration. For the first time, we did it right after school on Wednesday. And even though it was raining, it was very well attended. So I was very happy that that worked out for most families. And all of the teachers and support staffs participated and did a fabulous job sharing all kinds of activities around reading. We even had a couple of new guide dogs that we met that got to be read to, which was lots of fun. And then we had two really great things just happen this week. Monday was fourth grade sharing of their missions. So they had a time for parents to come in and see all their missions and what was going on with their California history. And also the third graders got to come and see it all, which is great for them to get ready for next year. And as Peter mentioned, today was the state fair. Mrs. Stroud and Miss Dickinson put that on, and it was fabulous. And the kids were sharing their own personal states they researched, and lots of great activities. So very thankful for the teachers and for the students, because they got to show what they learned and did lots of oral presentations. So that was really awesome. And we are in the midst of the Lyceum Spelling Bee. We will have the oral spelling bee next Friday, and we're excited. And then our 4 top spellers will go to Hartnell College for the Lyceum County Spelling Bee. So excited about that. And hopefully next month I'll bring them for recognition.
Great.
So thank you.
Thanks. Lots going on at Spreckels, too. Always. SUEF, PTO, Bobcat Club, any reports? Okay. Well, let's move on to the program updates. Bernard? Facilities? Oh.
There we go. Well, it's been a month and a half. At the last board meeting, we weren't even supposed to have started the solar project until April. And now they will have the whole structure built and panels in on Friday.
Wow.
And then following that, the following week, they'll be doing all the electrical connections, and then they'll do the underground drilling in the first week of April for all the conduits to connect it to the electrical panel. And it should be completed. It says August 7th is when it'll be finalized. And then also for the Spreckels solar project, we have DSA approval for the plans last week. So we're moving forward with that. We'll need to secure an IOR, which we already have for this project, and the lab of record inspector also.
So the bills start going down in August.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So hopefully, yeah, August 7th. That's it.
Okay.
When do we get the parking lot back? They put the
So, we're going to get some of the parking lot back next week. I'm not sure how much. We still need to have a few of the spaces for the construction guys that are there, but we can probably get about 6 or 7 more spots back. The green fencing, I believe, is going to stay on there until... had it on here. Demobilized site, 4/25. So April 25th. We should probably have all the fencing down and everything back to normal without a functioning solar panel, obviously, but end of April.
Okay.
Maybe sooner. The schedule they gave me, they're already a week ahead of schedule so far, so it's good.
Thanks.
Yep.
Dr. Bree, when Andy's presenting, you may need to move over towards the peanut gallery to kind of control things back there, okay? Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Bernard, food service?
Yeah, so we had the team had a good meeting with the team from Salinas City to kind of hash out some of the differences that we had been having, and went very well. So I think going forward, we'll work a little better with them,
Great.
a little more closely. Is very positive.
And transportation?
And transportation, but unless Heather has something to add, I just want to put it out there, we still need to come up with an effective way to attract bus drivers. And there's different ways that we can do that. We can offer a larger day to ensure benefits, for example, or the other option, of course, is, you pay more than everybody else, but you keep it at 4 hours. I don't think that's the optimal.
Yeah.
I think it's the former. But it's something we need to seriously start to address, because relying on subs for driving is tenuous at
Yeah.
best. Yeah. And they do an amazing job. Heather does an amazing job of keeping those buses running and kids at school and getting home safe.
Yeah, but
But if you're going to rely on a sub, most of the time you need a sub for the sub, and if you don't have drivers, you don't have subs. There are no subs for the subs.
Exactly.
I know I'm sounding redundant,
But that's exactly right.
okay. Fund balance.
So fund balance report, it's going to change as of next month. Obviously, when we start to look at this after we incorporate the second interim budget, because we had some expenditures that had not previously been budgeted for that finally hit. So once those show up, we'll see a little bit different. We'll go through that when we go through the second interim. But for the most part, business as usual. Revenues are coming in. Expenses are staying good and steady. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that would cause any concerns. There's your revenues right there. So as of the time of me doing this, and I haven't checked it this week, $8,216,000 had already come in.
Great.
Expense-wise, sitting at 7.4. These are actual expenditures, so a little bit of cushion there between the two, as you can see. Trends are following the same as every other month that we've had so far as well. Net fund balance is up right now, but that's because we haven't caught up
Yeah.
to the end of the year, so it'll come down as we move closer. And then this is just, you've got it in the packet if you want to really get into the numbers. But that's essentially where we're at with that.
Thanks. I appreciate the graphs. Easier to visualize. Class configurations.
Yeah, this is our first pass. We officially started registration last week, so this is in real time. But as always, this is going to change 2, 3, 4 times before we adopt a budget. The biggest difference is you'll notice the elimination of 2 teachers. Well, natural attrition. So thankfully, we didn't have to lay off anybody this year. When Bernard gets to the second interim, he'll make it clear that we have some hard decisions to make. The first one was to the elimination of 2 spots, again, naturally, in first and fifth. So now we're looking at 3 cohorts per grade level. And the numbers are going up a little bit in some grades. Again, that's one way that we could kind of weather the budget storm that we're going to face. We're still waiting for one of our neighboring districts to release their interdistricts in TK and Kinder, so those numbers should be going up. At Buena Vista, if you want to flip to the next one.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, at what point do we shut off third and fifth? Is it third and fifth? Third. Are we going to take any more in? Are we
Oh,
going to
no.
cap that off?
All interdistricts
Yeah, for interdistricts.
for second through fifth were done.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Unless they trike for some reason.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Um,
And you got a wait list for those 2 probably?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Buena Vista, 7th and 8th are nice and full. And 6th grade, we are looking at different options for scheduling. If those numbers adjust downward. For example, if we identify some PALMA kids that are not going to be back, we may be able to go to 3 there too. Again, this is a work in progress, but we are down. I mean, the fact is we have decline enrollment. This is the first time it's loud and clear, and it's one thing we're going to have to deal with the next couple of years.
And declining enrollment, particularly in the 6th grade. I mean,
Well, 6th grade, it's explainable because Palma opened it up to the 6th grade. It's, it's the early grades. We're not seeing the in-district people. I don't think people are moving in with 3 kids anymore. So, and again, this is statewide, countywide.
okay, well, keep us posted on that. Thank you. Chronic absenteeism, which
Speaking of budget and speaking of class numbers, it was pointed out, I think, a board meeting or so ago that we need to be able to control what we can control, which isn't a lot, but we can address attendance trends. Chronic absenteeism, if you went to the next slide, it's a relatively new term. It's when you miss 10% of the school year for any reason at all. It used to be, you had this image of the truant kid on the street corner not going to school, but chronic absenteeism is much different. It's for any reason, and a lot of times it's silence because a student can miss a couple days a month times 8 months. Now they're out for 10% of the year. Pre-COVID, it was called a hidden educational crisis. Post-COVID, it's only getting worse. Statewide, the number's at about 25%. In some of the bigger districts, 30-40% of their kids missing a lot. Why is that important? Well, it's very hard to detect unless you're looking for it, and that's one of the first things we're doing here. Much higher rates of chronic absenteeism in already vulnerable groups, for example, English learners, special education. In a second, I'll show some good news. Our two of our vulnerable groups, English learners and special ed, are actually below the overall. We're at 16% district-wide. They're at 11 and 13, and that's paper and pencil math, the first pass. Go back. So why is it important? I mean, the most obvious answer is that kids that are in their seat learn better. And chronic absenteeism is tied to all kinds of educational milestones. 3rd grade reading. Reading at grade level in 3rd grade is a predictor of quite a bit. And students that are chronically absent obviously don't meet that reading at mastery. They also don't come to school knowing their numbers or their alphabet. I'll wait for you guys to get back. Yeah. Almost there?
it's also
Okay.
notable that we kind of have an expert in chronic absenteeism because that's what your dissertation was all about. So we know more of the
Ironically,
ins and
yeah,
outs.
well, way more than I wanted, but yes.
Yeah.
Chris, and I'll explain how this topic has kind of morphed over the years. When I first was, Chris kind of gave me a suggestion. Why don't you, take on this as a real world problem? We were at 5.7%, and at that point it was high, our growth was high. Now it's up to 15. So COVID did a number on chronic absenteeism. One of the hardest ways to actually address and implement change is there's so many reasons a kid could be chronically absent. It could be sickness, it could be anxiety, it could be transportation issues, it could be school climate, kids getting bullied, it could be watching little sister or brother, daycare situation. So there's dozens of reasons students can be chronically absent. So we need to look for patterns and trends. By doing that, then the district can kind of work with the family. Is it transportation? Is there another stop we could help you with? So that's kind of what the phase we're moving into now, identifying our most chronically absent kids and seeing if there's anything we can do. It's also strongly related to other negative society outcomes, for example, dropping out, juvenile delinquency. And the most obvious, it's loss of revenue. I did some, again, paper and pencil math. It's about $60 per day when a student's not in attendance. If we had a 95% attendance rate, which is really good, it's actually a goal of the district, at 900 kids, that's $500,000 of lost ADA funds. So in every percent we can move up is going to save us, could be $100,000. And I think, Steve, that's why you asked to bring this report. Yeah. With that said, I took a close look at our most chronically absent kids. Next slide. And the back. So in 2018, it went from hidden to it's a phenomenon people need to address. And again, Chris, I did a report back then. We were in the orange on the indicator, which is second to the bottom for chronic absenteeism. And so 6.9, we'd love to have that back, but that going back those years, that was bad then, and it's only gotten worse. So the year after, we actually did some work, reduced, and then after COVID, it just spiked, and it's still going, at an alarming rate. Take a look at our kids. As of February 15th, we had 142 kids that were chronically absent, which is 16%. Again, the two vulnerable subgroups, fortunately, are below that, which is a good sign. I took a look at the lowest attendees, and they weren't surprises. These are kids that were all on everybody's radar, either chronic health issues, chronic anxiety issues. 9 of the 10 were already on accommodation plans, so we were trying to address it. Then we went to the next bracket, so the kids under 80%, which is pretty bad still. And you see a disproportionate amount of TK to first grade students, the younger kids. And this is consistent with the research because you think about, you go from preschool, a lot of kids, maybe do 2-3 days a week. Now you're committing to 5 days a week, and it's a big shift for parents, and it's our job to educate parents on the importance of attendance, especially in those early grades. Kids that are chronically absent in kindergarten and first are like 3 or 4 times more likely to be chronically absent the rest of their educational career. And then,
and in California, you can't compel kids to be in school until they're 6 years old.
right,
So if they're under 6, definitely TK and maybe
yeah,
K kids, kinder kids,
Yep.
that they're at the will of their educational decision maker
Right.
at home to get them to school, and they can't be compelled to come. They
Right.
just need to come for their own education.
and those years they're building, habits that will
But
last
we-
12 years.
But if they're on the books, matriculated, and we have staffing for them,
Right.
we can't afford the staffing if they don't come,
Exactly.
even though they don't have to. So that's kind of the rub.
Yep.
And there's a couple bills. There's a bill in each house about mandatory kinder, but
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody will have the guts to make it to the
Yeah.
governor's desk, and I don't know if he'll have the guts to sign it.
And then the next band, 80-90%, it was really hard to find any real trends. So we need to do a deeper dive, which leads us to the next steps. We need to continue our,
Can we go back to the accommodation plan?
Sure.
What does that look like?
just of those 10 kids, 9 of them were either on a 504 or IEP, not for the same reason, but
They weren't on summer accommodation because of their attendance.
no.
Okay, they
But-
already have some unique educational challenge that's documented.
Some of those, for example, were on a 504 for anxiety. So
Yeah.
the fact they don't go to school often wasn't a big stretch, right?
Okay.
And our next steps, messaging is going to be key, and strategic messaging. We just talked about the lower grades, so our kindergarten, first and second grade teachers, we really equip them with, back to school night, bang home how important going to school is. Unless you're sick, you need to show up. The next one. We need to, I believe, get back to perfect attendance is important. Improved attendance is important. I've kind of shared it a few times, but I really believe one of the biggest disservices we did to our parents coming back from COVID. Well, during COVID, we said, you're sick, stay home for 10 days.
Yep.
Well, that message stuck around. How important is school when you just send me home for 10 days, right? And now we have to combat that messaging with, no, we want you here. And fortunately, the COVID laws are allowing that. Now it's basically when you don't have symptoms, you should be back in the seat. So we're at that point again.
Yep.
And then a deeper dive into the reasons. So the next band, do we have any patterns that emerge? Is it transportation? I don't think so. Heather pretty much knows who every kid is, and if there was kids that didn't get here, we'd figure it out. But is it school climate? Do we have kids that are scared to go to school? Those are things we can control or at least help. There's going to be things like sickness and family dynamics that we can't, but we could help with the things we could control. So that's it. We'll work on it. Again, our numbers are a lot less than the state, but it's still too high.
Yeah,
There is another intangible that we can control.
What's that?
Is that oxymoronic to say intangible is controllable? Maybe.
Can't touch
But
it,
anyways,
control it.
when our calendar doesn't line up with the other districts and folks want to take a family vacation, they're either going to lose ADA here or in the other district. or private school if they have a split. You know, some kids, the youngers here and the olders at private school, parochial, whatever. So that is something we can control if we have the gumption to control that.
The calendar.
But that's one.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
The other one is calendars not matching up regardless. Families taking their kids on extended breaks. They get the break plus on the front end, back end, or both, and do a 2-weeker out of the area, only half of which was during a school break or so. That's also some low-hanging fruit, but that's going to be a tough conversation. But it's a fierce one with soft skills that staff needs to have with those families. And if they're doing it in year X, you can assume they're going to do it in year Y and Z.
For sure.
So when you see it happen in year X, we need to intervene when we see it prior to them making their plans for the subsequent school year vacation. Those are some things that we can try to control.
When we get to the calendar later, we definitely more overlap with Salinas High was a focus. Not perfect, but better.
Yeah, I will. That's an accurate characterization.
Laura, yeah, I think we could take
Sure.
STA. Yes, he did.
I'm just saying, I'm back here with Maria Sarate, who's one of our EL parents. And I've been helping translate for her. And we were talking about this and how we would like to incorporate this into our DLAC
Oh, good.
meetings.
Great idea.
And help parents understand more about the importance of the attendance. And I think that is one resource we really need to hone in for our multilingual families about that they've taken to heart really the staying home sick.
Right.
And we need to especially change that message for our multilingual families.
That's a great point. Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Every avenue needs to be explored because this is going to be really important to us as we go ahead. And having counselors in the school helps with this, and having intervention specialists that help the kids have more success is part of the strategy as well. So, all very important. Thanks. Okay, quarterly county treasurer's report.
Did you go to the last slide?
The next steps? Yeah, I thought I did.
So, little reading for you if you're having trouble going to sleep here.
Right.
Or if you just really like numbers, but pretty much what you'd expect if you follow investment. Still kind of upside down, although it's trending back to more normalcy where short-term investments won't give us higher yields than longer-term investments. But for the most part, rock solid. They do a pretty good job with the county with their investments. So that's about all that's really to take away from that at this point.
Okay. Annual financial report.
Yeah, so we got our audit back. And it was very clean. No qualifications on the audit. The only finding, and it's already noted that it's corrected in the report, was a lack of process for tracking work in process in certain capital projects. And so we put that together for them as we work through it, and all is well. They note at the end that that's already been taken care of, so there's no finding going forward.
Yeah, this audit is kind of Bernard, and it's kind of your report card, and
Yes.
you got a good one, so congratulations.
And my predecessor. This was really for her year,
Yeah.
her last year, but
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, school accountability report cards.
Yeah, this is the annual. It's basically the glimpse of both school sites, test scores, credentialed teachers, programs. After tonight, this will go on our website. It'll be available at both school sites. But if there's any questions, this is something we bring to you every year.
Any questions from the board about either of these? Okay, so here's Spreckels Elementary and Buena Vista. Okay. And these are one of these things that we have to get out online by a certain time, so we're meeting
so
that
we're
deadline.
ready to go tomorrow, whenever. Thank you.
Institutional payment.
Yeah.
Bernard, budget guidelines and calendar?
Okay, so we had talked about this before, so per your direction at the last meeting, specific dates were taken out and left in just general reference for the month in question for the nothing else was changed from the last review of it. All along.
Okay, any questions on the board? Anything you need to review? Nope. Thank you.
We're putting in budget guidelines. Again, same as the last one. Didn't receive any other additional input from anyone, so assume that's where we're going forward.
Okay, thank you. Classified salary analysis.
Yeah, so you have a handout with you that I provided. It's a one-pager. So there was some question last time regarding some increases in classified salaries and what was the sudden jump in those numbers over the adopted budget. And what it turns out it really is so the prior CBO, one component was, she was in 2 different positions. And then we hired 2 people in those 2 positions. So that was above and beyond what you would normally have. So there was some money there. The bigger one was really her vacation pay, which turned out to be a whopping $57,703.
Yeah, she didn't miss much work.
Yeah, not much at all. And then also for the technology support position as well, some about $12,000 in vacation pay. And so that really is the difference. And then we've got some additional hourly duties that are extra duty that's gone above probably where we thought it would be when the budget was initially created. And so that's the explanation for that anomaly.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, and I want to say publicly that our HR director and our registrar are very important positions and people for us, and we're going to make some adjustments to make sure that you don't have to do all the overtime that you've been doing, and we really appreciate all that you put into the district up until this point. All right. Bernard, what's the next thing on my list?
The next one is we are moving into action items.
Yeah, this is-
And the proposal to conduct the public opinion research on potential bond measure.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're at that point that, I'm sorry.
so I need a motion to approve the 2024 bond measure proposal. Second?
Second.
Okay, now,
So we're at that point now that we have to decide, are we moving forward? We did the needs assessment, we did the staff survey, and now we have to figure out, will the community support a bond and what measure? Stephen Gold's with us, he's our partner from CFS. I sure hope you like basketball because you're very patient. And he's here to answer questions and kind of explain why there's 2 contracts and how they work kind of in sync. And where this, if you approve it tonight, where this will lead us for next steps.
and turn on your mic, thank you. You can hold one of the trophies if it makes you feel better.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Stephen Gold with California Financial Services, representing the school district as financial advisor in this matter. What you have before you is the approval of 2 separate contracts that together make up the public opinion survey team. So I think, as the superintendent mentioned, I think initially what I'd like to do is kind of explain a little bit about each of the team members' roles and kind of how they work together to not only create a public opinion survey that hopefully will return results that are statistically significant, but then also allow the school district then to move from that survey results to the kind of the next step. So the first one you have in front of you is from FM3, who is the, I think, the FM3 one's the first one, yeah. They are a professional survey consultant, and their role on the team really is to make sure that a survey is constructed and fielded in a way that we can get statistically significant results. So when we put these surveys out, we want to make sure that we're putting that in the way, given the amount of time and effort and money that goes into it, that we're putting it out in a way that when we get the results back, we can be confident those results reflect the likely voters within the school district for the next election. So what these folks do is they look at historical voter rolls, they look at who votes, how often they vote, all these types of things, and they create a voter. What's that? Then you're on the list. They put together a profile of the likely voters. They look at things like gender, political affiliation, age ranges, all of these different components, and then they will field a survey where the sample mirrors the composite of what the likely voter for the November 2024 election would be. Different than the likely voter in March of 24, different than the likely voter in November of 2022 or November 2026, specifically for that election. They'll also make sure that as that information is gathered from the respondents, that information is compiled in a way that best illustrates the true results of that survey. That said, they don't work alone. The next contract that you're considering is the approval of a contract for the Lou Edwards Group. The Lou Edwards Group is a political consulting firm that works throughout the state. They work on both measures as well as candidates. But in this case, we've used them for years to assist our school district clients to, before the survey goes out, to make sure that the actual questions that are being asked in the survey reflect both the local goals of the school district as well as some of the things that we've learned statewide in recent months and years. What are the things that other school districts have encountered over the last couple months? How should we be asking those questions to your voters to kind of get their feelings for items that may have been hot or cold in other communities? Once the survey results are done, the Lou Edwards Group takes that information, helps the board and the district staff understand what it means, and then also will work with your staff to create some communication guidelines. So if the survey comes back and says that there's a difference in understanding as it relates to, say, the condition of a site, you guys think the site is in one condition and the community believes it's in a different condition, they would help you design and implement a communication program to help kind of close that gap, to give you the opportunity to communicate any type of kind of miscommunication you have with the voting public. So that pretty much wraps it up on kind of how they work together in the survey process.
And Lou Edwards helped us in our last successful one.
Correct.
Yeah.
All three members of this team, our team, CFS, the Lou Edwards Group, and FM3, were part of the last successful bond measure for the school district.
Okay. So are these bond surveys focused around any particular issues? I mean, our district's budget is so thin, we don't really have anything for capital projects, right? And so we'd have to do a bond process if we were going to go out for capital projects. Do these focus on particular issues, or are they more general?
So there'll be a couple different layers of items that we'll be testing. Kind of the first layer will be a lot of kind of general feelings, like how right track, wrong track, those types of basic questions. But then we will get into facility priorities, and what we'll be trying to measure is not only, will the community support a bond or not, but also where are their facility priorities, and we can compare and contrast that to the work that we've already done with staff and with staff at both the school sites as well as the district office, to see, as an example, if playgrounds were on the list at one of the sites, we'll test what's the community feel about playgrounds, and vice versa. And depending on the size and the scope of the survey, we can test anywhere from 10 to 40 separate facility priorities.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? No? All right.
I have a question
Go
for
ahead.
you guys. Maybe someone can dumb it down for me. I'm not looking
looking at the proposals, nor do I recall them. I believe we clearly need a bond. Can you dumb it down to me what we are discussing here? Is there a financial outlay to
Yeah.
engage with these gentlemen?
Yeah, both contracts are, one is per call, and one is, I think, what was it total, Stephen, about 30,000, is that we estimated?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, there's definitely expense, it's a,
Yeah.
That's an
Both contracts combined?
yeah.
that's an upfront expense, or when do we pay for that?
We need to do this work. We need to get this work done, these two pieces. Because if we don't know if the bond is going to likely pass or not. And we have to pay our share of the ballot.
Right.
Although it won't be as much of a share because we're sharing with a lot of people in the general election in November. But we don't want to go down this road if
We're gonna-
hear that the barometric reading of the community is no way. So that's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So we're paying to see the next card.
Yeah, exactly.
Paying to see the next card.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of a predictor of how successful this will be.
Yeah, because the bond election is expensive for us, so not to have that expenditure if we're not going to think we're going to be pretty successful with it.
The other thing that the survey process allows us to do is better align the ultimate bond projects with what the community's desires are. So instead of going to the community and saying, we need a bond for capital improvement stuff, we have a better idea of what are the capital improvements, where does the community align with where the site level staff aligned and where the district staff align, where are the overlaps there. So when you go, if the decision is made to move forward with a bond election, you're moving forward with a bond election where you can communicate to the public, this is the parameters of the bonds, and here's where the needs and desires of the district's office staff, the site staff, and then the community kind of align.
Yeah, the ballot has to reflect what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We can't just say, give us a bunch of money and we'll figure it out later. Or we want to build a 50,000 seat stadium. And the community says, no, you're not. It'll fail. So we have to honor what's on the ballot. And so the survey will elicit what the community is willing to let us do with the bond money.
Yeah, I think the word is appetite, right? The appetite in this current economic reality for the kinds of things that we want to do and line that up with what the community wants to do, or vice versa, right? Yeah. Okay, any other information needed? We ready for a vote?
You good, Frank?
I'm good.
Yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah, have a safe trip.
And we can vote on those as a package, just one vote?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah, that's how
We're good? Okay.
they go together.
Okay, second interim report.
All right.
Fun stuff.
Or I guess I need a motion. Motion to approve the 2023-24 second interim report, including balances in excess of minimum reserve requirements. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Okay. Can I get a second? Okay. Now, Bernard.
Okay. Okay. So we'll do this in about 17 slides and get through 80 some pages of budget here. So try to be mindful of that. So real quick recap of the budget process. Being very iterative, so we just got through the governor's proposal. We're down there towards the bottom. We are right there where that says we are here at second interim. Going into March 15th is when it is due. Then we'll have our preliminary LCAP and next year's budget ready. We'll get the May revise. We'll make a mad dash to true up based on that revise, and then in June we'll adopt it, and we start this whole cycle all over again. Just never ends. Just keep grinding. So things we'll go over here, just go over the budget process a little bit with you for some background. We'll take another look at the governor's January budget and also the LAO's view, legislative office. And then we'll look at the multi-year and we'll talk about next steps and then any questions and comments that you may have. So just for the budget and reporting process, for your own edification, you can see here, adopted budget, LCAP in place no later than July 1. That kicks off the year. By September 15th, you have your unaudited actuals that are due. Board review in January and February of your annual independent audit. Of course, ours was late this year because they were just backed up, and so they had to postpone. First interim, all your activity through October 31st was due in December. This is the second interim. It's everything through January 31st. Then our LCAP public meetings start, and then we have the June budget adoption that has to be done before June 30th, so that we're live on July 1. And so rehash of the governor's budget. So he was projecting a $38 billion budget gap when he came out with his proposal. It included no cuts to K-12 education. He was using what many consider a very novel approach to handling the deficit, especially in the back years, where he was basically internally borrowing funds from here, robbing Peter to pay Paul, basically. And then pulling $18.8 billion from the rainy day fund to cover those gaps. Very, very positive for us in education, but not necessarily well received by other sectors out there. And so I think we're going to see some change. Well, then we come out with the LAO, the Legislative Analyst Office outlook, and they've got more data now that they're looking at. And they come out with a $58 to $73 billion gap. So you can do the math there. It's double, basically, what the governor thought was going to be the gap. And it's because revenues just have not materialized. So projections, are always going to change. Right now, like we said, revenues just came in a lot lower than projected. They anticipate the budget deficits to continue into 25-26. And their recommendation to all school districts is to reduce your one-time and temporary spending and keep it on hand to cover any shortfalls that may come up. Some key assumptions. If you look here at reduction in COLA, so we were going with a 0.76 for next year and then a 2.73 the following year. We don't go that third year out. But I just left it there so you could see it, and you can see the difference. So back in June last year, when the adopted budget was set, the prediction was, or the assumption was, that there was going to be a 3.94 COLA going into this next year. And we're at a 0.76, so that's a reduction of 3.18%, which is a lot for a small district like us. Even into next year, they've rounded it down to 2.73 now, from 3.29, and it was still at 3.29, I think, back at first interim. So that's come down, so that's even lower. And then you can see the trend's starting to flatten out, but it's still predicting going down for at least another year. Some of the other assumptions that I used in building this was, so estimating a loss of 24 funded ADA, which is approximately, if we just do some quick napkin math, average of $10,000 per student for the base grant. That's $240,000 lost in revenue year over year. Salary and benefits increase $280,000. So what's that tell you right there? You're already upside down. You can't even keep pace with the salary and benefits costs. Increasing contributions to restricted programs. So more encroachment, whether it's special education or any of the other restricted programs, they're just taking more input from us. So again, just another hit to the general fund. I did build in just a 10% blanket reduction on supplies and services as just a prudent fiscal measure that we're going to need to do, but we're going to have to actually look at each program in particular, because some programs may not be able to handle a reduction. So, but the goal is to try to see if we can stem it by at least 10%. One other thing that was thought about, but it hadn't hit the numbers yet, was the loss of the ESSER funding. And so ESSER funding was COVID funding, and it ends this year. And we had 3 positions that are, as we've already heard, are very critical to operations, but they've now hit the general fund. the unrestricted side. And that's $313,000 and $488, excuse me, $313,000. So 2 counselor positions, 1 intervention teacher, and that funding is now gone. And so that's now going to encroach upon unrestricted monies until we can find how we're going to do that. But we're committed to obviously figuring that out. Loss of 2 teachers and a veteran principal, sitting here to my left, does provide us some savings. Not exactly a wash there, but it does lessen the blow of at least the lost revenue. Makes us pretty close to there. So that's why Dr. Torello talked about not needing to necessarily look at reductions at all. But going forward, we may have to do so.
A positive loss in a fiscal.
In a fiscal sense
not
only,
in
of
a-
course. We can't measure the amount of other loss that we're going to have there.
Just wanted to be clear for Teresa.
That's right. Going into 2020, 25, 26, at least as of right now, kind of projecting that we have a little bit less of a loss in our ADA, that it starts to maybe flatten out. Let's hope. But even there, at 13 funded ADA, that's 130,000. Right there, the revenue increase goes up 105,000 over the prior year, which is good. But then our salaries and benefits, you start looking at some of those. Step and column alone is 106,000. So right there, you're already under the revenue increase right there. And again, smaller amount of contributions predicted going forward, but we don't know. We won't really know that until we get into the next year, that just keeping things constant. And so there's no additional need to go up there. And then again, just that same 10% reduction. And that's based on the CPI increase, which is about 2.7% for next year, which would be $36,000 increase there. So in terms of certification, 3 types of ways that you can certify: positive, qualified, and negative. Positive means that we can meet our minimum qualifications over the next 3 years, counting the rest of this year and then the next 2 years. Qualified means we may not be able to meet those obligations. And finally, negative means you're not going to. You're in real trouble. And the good news is we are going to file a positive certification. That's been verified already with some discussions with the county CBO. No concerns on their part at all, that we can meet our fiscal obligations. Again, it just reflects our fiscal activity through January 31st, so this is all subject to change. Obviously, going forward, we've got to finish the year strong, right? And so as we start to look at this, and those numbers are a little bit small, but you can see LCFF is almost 78% of our funding. And so when we go down in ADA, that's a big chunk, big hit to us. Federal revenues this year are at 688, 759. They'll be going down, obviously, because of the loss of the ESSER funds. Other state revenues, 1.2 million, and then other local revenues, a little over $1 million. And so here's our MYP in a nutshell. So for this year, you can see it right there in column 23-24. At second interim time, we will be looking at a net deficit, 82,000, still within an acceptable margin. You get about a 1.3% margin in terms of deficit spending before they really consider it deficit. But you can see that next year, 556. So that's taking into account a couple of things. So we've got the loss in ADA, so revenue has gone down. We've got the loss in ESSER funding and those positions shifting over. So that's another hit. And then the third is just taking into the, planning for salary negotiations to go through at a 3% increase is what we've put into the model. May be different, once we get that finalized. But that's what it is. And so those 3 things magnify each other. And all of a sudden you're at $556,000 deficit for the year, which will have to be covered through contribution from the general fund. You can see the expenditures projected to be less, actually, next year, which is good. But again, some of that is counterbalanced by the loss of ESSER funds. So all our restricted funds are balanced. So whatever comes in also gets spent. So those kind of numbers go down. Another thing that inflated our expenditures this year that you need to be aware of is the ELOP program. So Expanded Learning Opportunities Program, which we have not budgeted for in the past. However, we have to pay it back this year. So we'll have to pay back 2 prior years plus the current year because we have not used any of it. Going forward, Dr. Torella and I have a phone call tomorrow morning with the team from the county office because I had reached out to the state and said, hey, can you help us? Because these are monies we could be benefiting our children with, right? And it's about $580,000 we're giving back. And about 200 and some thousand per year that we would get going forward. The state mandates that you can't say I don't want it and not get it. They're going to pay us. It's in ed code now, so we have to get it. The first 2 years had to be paid back. Going forward, you can actually roll it forward, but they're going to give you a penalty for every day you don't comply. So,
And that's the kicker. It requires 210 days of 9-hour days.
Exactly.
Let's try to, when without the audit guy, it's like, well, let's say we do half a program. How much are we giving back? So hopefully tomorrow we'll get some answers.
Yeah, and the way they do it, they have a factor. So for every day that you don't comply, it's multiplied times 0.0048. And eventually it can go above what you actually received. But fortunately, they put into the statute that you will never pay more than what you were actually given.
Yeah,
So
talk
you won't-
fast, guys. Talk pretty so that we get forgivable loans on that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why this year suddenly turned upside down there in that fund is because I finally put it into the books to recognize it. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Here we go again. This is looking at just the unrestricted funds only. That last one was looking at the combined. So in unrestricted, it still looks pretty healthy this year, right? We've still got a $244,000 operating surplus. But that all just gets absorbed when it flows back into the restricted programs,
Right.
unfortunately. And then going forward, as you can see, that's where we're getting our deficit actually is from. It's coming from those 3 things that we talked about before affecting us going forward. And so budget timeline, the rest of this month and into April, we'll start doing those kind of dog and pony show and going around and getting input from all the stakeholders, really talking about specific programs and what we can cut and what we must keep and figure out how we can best protect ourselves fiscally going forward. Then in May, LCAP and budget workshops and community meetings will be held, and adoptions in June. We'll get the LCAP and the budget adopted, and we'll roll into next year ready to take it on. And then this is just a little graphic to kind of show you where our expenditures are. So certificated salaries, almost 50%. And then your classified salaries, roughly 15%. Employee benefits in the high 16%. Books and supplies is fairly nominal. Services and operating expenses are pretty high. That might be one area where we can actually maybe really tighten our belt. And then other outgoing and other financing, those are pretty much things that you just have to do to get money to other funds. For example, the cafeteria fund is the $165,685. And that's really second interim in a real quick nutshell. You've got 80-some pages if you really want to scour it and really know the numbers. Obviously, I'm always available for a phone call if you want some clarification on anything, but
Thanks.
that's where we're at.
Questions from the board? I taught an organic chemistry class and gave an exam, and this one kid wrote out part of his formula, and then he made a little cloud with a lightning bolt through it, and he says, "A miracle occurred." And then he had the final formula. We're looking for a miracle occurred, a cloud and a lightning bolt there, Bernard.
I fear we are.
Okay, thanks. So we got a motion on the table to approve the interim report. No more discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 401. And then we have the next resolution for the second interim budget revision. Oh, okay, thank you. By roll call vote. Can I have a motion to approve this? Second? Okay. Bernard,
Thank you.
do you want to say anything before we?
No, I just really appreciate all your support on this, and Dr. Tarallo's support, and especially the teachers and classified staff have been great in providing feedback and being a willing partner, and that's really what it's about.
Okay.
So we're gonna make it happen.
Okay, roll call vote. Frank?
Aye.
Steve? Peter? Aye. And I'm an aye as well. Motion passes 401. Bullying prevention update.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're gonna do a short intermission.
You can go. I'm just going to help her.
Go for it.
Make sure you're
Thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks for coming, Stephanie. So bullying prevention, that we're making this a standing agenda item. The research basically says that the more inclusive your campus can be, where all subgroups are welcome and feel supported, that's probably the natural way to deal with bullying. With that said, Mrs. Villarengo is in the process of planning the first ever multicultural fair, and it's really to celebrate all the cultures that are in our district, in the attempt to make it more inclusive. We are meeting Tuesday. It's the DLAC meeting, and she has a committee that we're going to go to work, and I think you're working with Teresa. We have a date. It's May 9th, right?
May 9th is our multicultural fair. It's going to take place during the school day so that everyone in the school can participate. And it will be family driven. The parents will be essentially running the show and will hopefully volunteer. We'll have a vast number of cultures represented. And at this point, we have 3 performances that we will have. And then at the DLAC meeting, we will have a couple of presentations on attendance, on LCAP, and a translator there.
Yeah, we're kicking off our translation services, so we'll see how that works
Yes.
in real
And then
time.
we'll have a multicultural fair committee meeting on the 25th, if that's a Monday. I hope that's a Monday, because that's the, I'm going off the top of my head when the committee meeting will be.
Okay, well, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
8th grade trip for 2024, 25?
Yeah, a few meetings back, our 7th grade president pointed out that her class has really been left out, so we're trying to find ways to give them a special trip next year. A couple of teachers are working together. They've identified an overnight camp or field trip to Sacramento that looks promising, that's going to be tied to the 8th grade curriculum. It's a little spendy. It's probably twice the per pupil amount per week, but right now it's about 300 and something bucks for science camp. This will be like 700, so there's gonna be a lot of fundraising involved. Bernard and I are crossing our fingers tomorrow. Our ELOP conversation can perhaps defray some of the costs. We'll see, but that's kind of what has been chosen, and now it's kind of rallying the teachers and the students and the parents to say, okay, to make this happen, but I think it could happen. So they're excited about it. It's like 3 nights up in Sacramento.
Okay. Any question actually about the previous 2 topics? No? Okay, LCAP update.
So tomorrow we have our next LCAP educational partners meeting, and they'll be receiving the same survey results. But 3 different surveys went out asking people to kind of prioritize the programs we offer currently in the LCAP, knowing that maintaining and keeping all of them probably is not going to happen. So the results, the first one was sent to all staff, and this is the breakdown. So 60% of the 35 respondents were teachers, 31% classified, and then the remaining management. And the results are the top 3 were counselors, as we talked about, class sizes, and intervention, the intervention teacher. The other items there were that scored lower were continuing to offer professional development, continuing the bridging program, enrichment, after school enrichment, and then maintaining safe and attractive schools. So that was the staff's take. Next one was parents. And there's the breakdown of who took it. Blue was Spreckels parents, red was Buena Vista, and then yellow students at both sites. 155, so 155 out of about 900 families, probably 700 families. So it's not a bad, it's not as high as we'd like, but it's not, in survey talk, it's not horrible.
And is this pretty typical that we get fewer responses from Buena Vista parents when we put out these kinds of surveys?
Well, I mean, it's a 2-to-1 ratio. So I guess,
okay.
I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be like 60-30, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
you see the same thing when 8th graders turn and stuff too. It goes every year, it gets a little worse. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So the results from the parents were class sizes, enrichment, facilities, and counselors. We tried to figure out why intervention scored so well with staff, but not necessarily families. I think the easiest answer is intervention is kind of a fancy education term. Like, what's that, right? But I think our staff's been very clear about the importance of having that. The last one, and I didn't separate these intentionally. Well, I sent out the family survey in both English and Spanish. So from the 11 respondents of the families that took the Spanish-speaking one, the results are enrichment, facilities, bridging, and the counselors. So moving forward with the LCAP development and budget development, we're going to take these, priorities and again, try to maintain the ones that our stakeholders, I wish there was perfect alignment of the different groups,
Right.
but I think they are telling. I think we've kind of captured really important priorities that we make that now need to become sacred. So, and what was the next one? One part of the survey was also open-ended questions. So we did some breaking down the data, and here were the themes. There was a clear demand for the music program, which we all want. We're still trying to fill that position. After-school opportunities, both academic and enrichment, were important to most of the parents, and retaining our fantastic staff and smaller class sizes. Now, as we talked about, there's only a few ways to deal with the budget problem, and lowering class sizes is not one of them, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to balance priorities with the reality, and to get to a place that we're still providing the education we want in a fiscally responsible way. So that's it. Yes, ma'am. Because you. No, he told you could.
Yeah.
just don't think that they realize that after-school opportunities, academic after-school opportunities is a form of intervention.
Right. Right. It's a bridging program.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move on to personnel, and we moved action item 6.1, which was to approve the final read of Spreckels Elementary School Principal job description. So someone want to move that, please?
I'll move it, but then I have a potential suggestion to consider.
Yeah, we'll come to it. Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. Now that we've opened it, does somebody want to introduce it and then?
Sure. This is the second read, and really, this is Teresa's been principal for 1 or 2 years, or 14, and so we asked her to kind of go back, and Kate did the same thing. As what duties have changed, what language is outdated. So what you're seeing is not much. We're not starting from scratch. We're kind of looking back 14 years and cleaning it up.
Okay. Steve.
Yeah, I know there's, we have some staffing, administrative staffing that we have to contend with, and that could be a challenge. And we don't know how things are going to shake out there. Would it be helpful, Superintendent, if instead of calling it a specific school site principal, we just say Spreckels Union Principal, so that if things aren't shaking out with someone at one site, you have the flexibility to move them to the other instead of just locking them in somewhere, because we don't know what the
Yeah.
future holds. It's just an idea.
Do you see any, or HR person, do you see any, are there big changes between the BV and the Spreckels?
It's an elementary school district. It shouldn't matter.
No, I know. I didn't know if the duties at one school, years ago, like for example, Buena Vista was also like the, with the testing coordinator, stuff like that. I think there's just subtle, but I see what you're saying. It's
Yeah.
have different district staff versus site specific. Do you have any?
It's an idea. I recognize the work is different, but the personnel might not match the site
I understand.
and the tasks at hand.
Yeah.
And you have flexibility to move people around should you need to.
Okay, so Steve, you're offering that as a suggestion, not as a motion or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so why don't
Teresa
you,
had a comment on it since she helped do it. Do you want to comment?
you may.
My suggestion's off the table. Let's move on. So moved. I'm going to move it. I'm moving it.
Does that mean you don't want me to speak?
I just want to move it. It's for action, right? Do we need to?
No, it was, well, the action was for the final read of the,
I love it.
yeah.
I moved it. Is there a
I
second?
think we're just going to
Yeah.
approve it.
Okay, so let's vote, let's vote on the final read of the principal position description. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. All right, committee updates?
I think I mentioned most of them. So committee, LCAP tomorrow. Our safety committee, 15 of us did the next round of training at our last professional development day, which was on February 16th. We went through behavioral threat analysis training. Very good. We learned a specific protocol. MCOE actually provided it and paid for it, which was great. And basically what it does is if there's a threat made, for example, if a student says something that's alarming, each site will have their behavioral analysis team that would, deal with the immediate issue, but then go through a bunch of different questions, figuring out how credible it is and what are the next steps. And so, Tammy, you're part of that. Did you think it was pretty well, a good day of training?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and was able to be incorporated into a conversation the week that we came back from break.
Good. And these are the steps we've been taking since our safety forum open night, our issues that we are turning into a positive with all this training. Next up, digital threat analysis. So, coming soon.
Great, thank you. All right, first read of the school calendar, instructional minutes, bell schedules.
So the bell schedule are the same as years past. So if we go to the calendar. Okay, thank you. So first, thank you to our calendar committee. Of all the committees, this is really the hardest one to get consensus because you have teachers, classified, management. You have, this year we invited 2 parents that were great because parents that had students in our district and also Salinas High. So they were the voice of alignment. And I think we struck a pretty good compromise. We also had to factor, there's so many interests and needs. For example, special ed, if they get an extra day on a vacation, it resets the clock for them that 99% of people don't know, but it's important. This is what we came up with. It's similar to Salinas High more than past years. Salinas High, and Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I saw their draft. Once the draft's out there, is it pretty close to being approved? Okay. Well, the draft that we have that they had board, I'm hoping that it is, because if our parents, if we did some alignment changes,
Kinda, it's likely to not change.
Okay.
Kinda, yeah.
So they have a full week of Thanksgiving, so do we. They have 3
Let's
weeks
just put it
off.
this way, I know too much about
Okay.
incompetence happening behind the scenes.
Well, the draft we
In a
got from
different
Salinas High, I'm
district
sure
not
hoping
far
that
away.
they
At
also
the cabinet level.
Okay. 3 weeks at December, we have 2. And it was nice just to have 2 because this year, both Christmas and New Year's were midweek. And so we didn't need those little extra days on the sides. The biggest difference, and this was one of the big compromises, was to have spring break at the same time as Salinas. And this was what the parents loud and clearly wanted. They get that we can't have 100% alignment, but they want that was definitely a big one. This moves up our spring break a couple of weeks, and many people thought that moving it up made for a very long end of the year. As you can see, there's no yellow with the last couple months. But again, the committee had very lively conversations. I think all views were at least shared. This is what we come up with. It's similar to past years with more alignment to Sling side. I think this would summarize it.
And our bargaining units are okay with this draft?
Yep.
Great.
They're there.
Okay, this, because of the way that this was
They don't like
formatted on the
spring break.
paper, I had the motion, so that we really should have had a motion in front of us. So motion for the first read, second. Okay. Stephanie, our board member that's not here, did write to me about some concern with the proposed academic calendar, mostly about having the February break and the spring break a week in each of those, and had proposed that there be a short survey. I think you had a response to how we might deal with that.
Instead of a survey, I would recommend that, again, we're in the getting this approved in a next month or so is important, because then you guys put set up your controls, right? So this is important for us to do business. I would say if we have another reading, or we have another approval in April. What I could do, if you approve it tonight, is I could share this with the community, saying draft. If you have any comments, please provide them, and then I can look for patterns. And I don't want to put it out to a vote, because just having 10 people in the room, it was very hard to come to consensus. We're gonna have 700 parents. There's no way we're gonna come up with we're gonna be inundated, and I think
That's
set
why we
back.
have representative democracy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So if it's okay, you approve it, I will share it with families and ask them to comment. And what we'll get is all types of different comments.
Okay, so I don't think that requires a separate motion. So let's just follow up with the motion to
Yeah, it's a
approve
first
this
read,
as a first read.
Yep.
Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. Final read of October 2023 policies per guide sheet.
Move.
Second.
Thank you. Somebody want to talk about it?
No.
No? Just,
Not usually.
I'm okay with it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. And finally, the first read of the December 2023 policies per guide sheet. Moved?
Sure.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. Okay, consent items, anything we need to pull out? Yep.
Move consent.
Thank you. Second? All in favor of approving the consent items? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0-1. We see the future agenda items there in front of us. Anything else that we need to pull out?
Or add.
Yeah. Hearing none, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Thank you. That was a lot today.